Hello and good evening, Chicago. Well, that was a heck of a lot of fun yesterday, wasn't it? For the second time in 3 games, the Bears figure out a way to come back and win one. Yeah, it's a bad team. Yeah, they needed to bring in Nick Foles. But damn it, they did it. They pulled off another 16-point comeback in the fourth quarter. Let's get excited. Yeah, it might be fleeting. So what? Who cares? The Bears are 3-0. Let's have some fun with that. You have found your way into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Besides Bears, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Of course, we got to talk about the Bears. We got to talk about Trubisky. We got to talk about Foles. And then, after we've done that, we got playoff baseball to go through, man. Both the White Sox and the Cubs. Don't look at what they did last week, but it didn't matter. They still made it into the playoffs. They got some work to do. We're going to dive through. We're going to look at that. We got playoff baseball starting tomorrow night, tomorrow afternoon, really. We got to talk about that. We got to go through it. And then, after we've done all that, the Bulls went and hired themselves a new head coach. And not just any new head coach, but Billy Donovan. Maybe one of the best hires they could have made in this offseason. And to help us talk about that, I've got a new friend of the program, friend of the station, who's going to hop on and give us kind of an Oklahoma look onto Billy Donovan and what we might expect from him. This is Chi-Town Weekly. Let's have some fun. All right, once again, this is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. If you're listening live here on Monday night, thank you very much. If you're listening to this later on as a podcast, thank you very much. As always, we want to get some of the housekeeping stuff out of the way. Some ways you can interact with the station and with the show. Of course, we are all on Twitter. At IE Sports on Twitter is to follow the station itself. And then also to check out what shows are going on at what times. You can go check out our website, IE Sports, and see what shows are when. We've got some shows coming back. For example, Let's Whine About Sports is coming back on later tonight after a little bit of hiatus. We've got some new shows coming on down the line. I'll talk about those a little bit later on in the program. Also, we've got multiple ways that you can listen and interact with the shows. Of course, this show is, of course, on Spreaker. And if you are listening live, please log in and hop into the chat. Hi, Larry. Hi, Taryn. I see you both there. Yes, Taryn, the No Bears No song is going to have to wait a little bit, but don't worry. I'm sure at some point we'll be able to get to it. We will write down some lyrics for that. So hop on in if you're listening live. Let's interact. Let's talk a little bit. You can also, of course, listen on Spreaker after the fact as a podcast, and thank you so much for doing so. You can also check out the shows on YouTube as well, both after the fact, and then several of the shows are available live either through YouTube or through IE Sports Facebook page. You can interact with some of the shows live with video, no less. I'm going to be doing that probably here in the next couple of weeks. I'll be making the transition to going on with a live video feed. For now, just using the Spreaker. If you miss any of the shows that do live video, they are available after the fact on the Spreaker app as podcasts. So lots of ways to interact with the shows. You can follow this show on Twitter at Chi-Town Weekly, IESR, and weekly is abbreviated WKLY. And then if you want to follow along with me on Twitter, I am at Adam_Karnick. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, boy, the Bears are just something else this year, aren't they? They made history yesterday with all that. I figure we'll start there. The Bears became the first team in NFL history to win 2 games in the same season where they trailed by at least 16 points in the fourth quarter. That's not something you're used to associating with the Bears. Fourth quarter comebacks. I think I can probably count on one hand the number of times I can actively recall double-digit comebacks for the Bears. It just doesn't happen. It's not what we're used to. Yes, the Falcons are terrible, and that certainly is a big story of the game. Yes, the Falcons are terrible, and they also set history by being the first team in NFL history to blow 15-point leads in the fourth quarter in back-to-back weeks. Their head coach is certainly not going to be long for his job. I can't imagine he makes it out of the end of the year with numbers like that staring him in the face. But the huge number, the huge part of the game for the Bears, Nick Foles is now your starting quarterback, and Matt Nagy made that evident, made that apparent this afternoon. He made it official that Foles will be the starter going forward. Also, late breaking news, apparently the sky is multiple shades of blue or gray, depending on where you were in the city today. Grass is green. Also, late breaking news, apparently there's a global pandemic going around. I mean, that's kind of the level of news we were at when Nagy made that announcement. It was very, well, no duh. The offense looked so much crisper, so much more energized, and so much more what Nagy wants to do with it, with Foles at the helm as opposed to Trubisky. And don't get me wrong, I like Trubisky. I still am a fan of his. If for no other reason, he handled everything in an incredibly professional manner. It's not the easiest thing in the world to suddenly be told you're not going to be allowed to do your job anymore, but you have to keep your head up and be supportive and be a good teammate, and he was those things. But man, did he look rough yesterday. He just looked so out of sorts, and against a defense that he should have not struggled so much with. That's a rough defense in Atlanta. That's not exactly a barn-burning defense that they've got there. And he couldn't complete passes. He could not navigate what the defense was giving him. And the talk was that they even went into the half and saying, boy, should we make the change? The big moment for Nagy that he mentioned and several people have brought up was late in the first half. Miller ran a skinny post and Trubisky just missed it. Just flat out missed the throw. Miller had no chance on the play. And then you see Foles run that exact same play in the fourth quarter and nailed Miller with it. That was the game-winning touchdown, was the exact same play. And in fact, they'd run it earlier in the game, earlier in the fourth quarter, and the refs, Al Riveron decided that he didn't think it was a touchdown. Never mind, there wasn't a camera angle that could show you that the ball hit the turf. Al Riveron decided, well, I don't think it's a touchdown, therefore it's not a touchdown. A la shades of Zach Miller from a few years ago. I probably haven't gone on this tangent before. I don't care for Al Riveron. I think he's a horrible replay official. and that he has no business doing that job. He blew several calls in that fourth quarter, to say the least. Fortunately, it did not cost the Bears the game. But you could see when Foles was in there, the offense just was able to click so much better. And that's why he had to make the switch. It was a bit surprising. It was surprising that Nagy made the switch when he did it early in the third quarter, only in the sense that you don't normally see a coach make the switch mid-game with a 2-0 team like that. But Nagy went with his gut. He made the switch probably earlier than most coaches would have, but it worked out, and it was the right time. The final play for Mitch, he just flat out misread and everybody knew it. He just flat out misread the defense. He thought it was a zone, he thought it was a man. The Falcons dropped back in a zone. Mitch just hyper-focusing on Jimmy Graham, just never saw the linebacker there, and the next thing you know, it's an interception. And for Nagy, it was the final straw. It was, okay, I have seen enough. This isn't going anywhere. We're 2-0. We're only down by 2 scores here in the second half. I've got a guy on the bench that's ready. Let's get him in there. Let's make this happen. And give Foles a lot of credit. I checked in with one of my guys this afternoon just to see, hey, how much practice has Foles been doing during the week with the ones? And he told me that, well, we're not allowed to, the Bears don't really make their actual practices very available to the reporters. They're shrouded in mystery and secrecy. Heaven forbid they might be practicing football or something. So they don't really let the beat guys watch practice. But Foles wasn't getting a lot of the reps. He wasn't getting a lot of the time with the ones. So to come in cold like that, and yeah, the timing was off a little bit. Some of his throws to Robinson were a little off point, just a hair one way or the other. But you can see where, man, this was cold. You give him a week of practice, you give him a week of prep, and this offense could look very different. To me, the turning point in the game where I felt like Atlanta knew that the wheels were unraveling were early in the fourth quarter. There was a sequence where they were down inside the Bears 30 in field goal range. It's a 16-point game. Third down, Akeem Hicks gets a sack, which forces him into a longer field goal. Young-hee Koo then misses that field goal, and you just felt like, oh, this could be it. This could be the momentum shift that the Bears were looking for. The Bears didn't take advantage of it right away, but you could tell the Falcons from that point on were very tentative. They knew, ooh, we had a chance to put this thing away and we missed. Uh-oh, this could be trouble. And they just kind of played on eggshells the rest of the game. So that to me was another critical turning point moment, was that missed field goal. So where are we with the Bears right now? They're 3-0. They're in first place in the division. They are one of, I'm pulling up the numbers, I want to say they're one of 8 undefeated teams in the NFL right now. And 2 of those undefeated teams are playing each other tonight. So you're going to have, somebody's going down. Unless, heaven help us, we have another tie. The Bengals and the Eagles played to a tie yesterday. Hopefully we don't have that. But so the Bears are going to be one of just a handful of unbeaten teams left in the league as we head into week 4. And I'm doing the math real quick here. Yes, it's 8 unbeaten teams, and we're about to go down to 7 after tonight. And possibly the Bears will be in the only division with multiple unbeaten teams. It depends on how tonight goes. Baltimore and Pittsburgh right now are both unbeaten in the AFC North right now, but we'll see how tonight goes. I have no idea what to make of this Bears team right now. We're 3 weeks in. The defense is not as strong and solid as I would have hoped. They still give up a lot of big plays. They just don't seem to have that intimidation factor going on for them right now. They are 9th in the league in points allowed. They're only allowing just under 21 points a game. They're in the top 10 there in points allowed. Scoring, oh my gosh, the Bears are just so bad on that offensively. Only 74 points in 3 games, or 20th in the NFL in scoring. How good is this team really? Well, I'm looking at Pro Football Reference right now, which is a great website. If you're not familiar with it, check it out. Lots of fun, geeky stats. They have a statistic on there that's expected win-loss record. Right now, they would project the Bears to effectively be just ever so slightly above 500. Through 3 games, not quite 2 wins, just a little more than 1 loss. So not quite a 500 team. But here they are at 3-0. Yes, they've played 3 horrible teams. Their 3 opponents, the Lions, the Falcons, and the Giants, have combined to win a game. They've got the Colts coming up next with 2 wins coming in. That's twice as more as any other opponent the Bears have faced to this point. So yes, not strong there. But they get better as the game goes on. At least they have twice anyway. They've gotten better as the game has gone on, in Detroit and in Atlanta. And that's on the road. It's still hard in the NFL to go on the road and win a game, even if there aren't fans in the building, even if it's a bad opponent across from you. It's still hard to go on the road in the NFL and win, never mind win in comeback fashion. So now with a new quarterback, these next couple games are going to be really interesting to see what they are. You've got the Colts and then the Buccaneers coming up in 2 games in less than a week of each other. That's going to tell us a lot of where this team is, where this team's at, where they could head. In the end, they're 3-0. They're tied for first place in the NFC North. They haven't started this well in 7 years. It was 2013 was the last time they started 3-0. There's an extra wild card spot out there. You've got to feel right now like that's something they should be able to go get, and they should feel good about themselves. Just like I talked last week, you'd much rather be 3-0 than 0-3. You've got so much more to work with when you're winning games than when you feel so much better about yourself when you're winning games than when you're losing games. And this is a team that, with an extra wild card spot, you feel like they've set themselves up nicely to be in contention for one of those 3 wild card spots, maybe even the division. Speaking of playoffs, there already are 2 playoff teams in Chicago. They both play baseball. They both had wild weeks last year. The entire MLB playoff tree scenario, whatever you want to call it, is going to be wild and crazy. Let's talk about it next. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Down! Green team! Set! Hit!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Bases Loaded is back in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on IE Sports Radio. So come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is, to hoist that Commissioner's Trophy when it's all said and done.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
Welcome in to the Neutral Zone. I'm your host, Robert Kavanaugh, and you're listening to IE Sports Radio. If you like big, nasty hits, if you like slap shots straight to the neck, if you like it when the gloves hit the ice and the big boys get down, then this is your show. On IE Sports Radio, this is the Neutral Zone. May our shots on goal always be true and straight to the net. If they are not, may they be followed up, redirected, or change collected. Let's go on IE Sports Radio with me, your host, Robert Kavanaugh, and this is the Neutral Zone.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Thank you again so much for taking time out of your day to talk some Chicago sports with me. Really appreciate it. So, the Major League Baseball playoffs start tomorrow. These are going to be hands down, you can pick a ton of adjectives, the craziest, the most bizarre, most absurd, most unpredictable, fun, exciting, wild, whatever adjective you want to use, playoffs that we'll probably ever see. You've got 16 teams in the postseason. You know, a normal MLB postseason is 10. You've got a sub-500 team in it that, because of the nature of these playoffs, could very well make some noise in the postseason. Every single team that has made it in has to feel like it has a chance, because everybody opens up playing a best-of-3 series. Everything resets, restarts, and now it's, if you lose game 1, you're immediately facing elimination. We've never seen that before in Major League Baseball, at least not for a long time. It's going to be really interesting to see, you know, especially if a heavy favorite like the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Rays or somebody like that comes out and drops the first game, how much pressure they feel by immediately being in that elimination mode. And then you've got both of our Chicago teams have made it. One, the Cubs won the division, got off to a crazy hot start, 13-3 start, and then kind of navigated through the rest of the season, through the rest of the schedule, before finishing 34-26 and taking the Central Division. And then on the other side of town, you had the White Sox, who, when we last talked a week ago, were not only on top of the American League Central, we're on top of the entire American League. They had the best record in the American League. Things were great. And then they had last week, they went into Ohio and just kept losing games. They only won 2 times last week. They won in Cincinnati once, and they beat the Cubs once. Otherwise, you've got, you know, these just awful strings of losses. Dropped 2 out of 3 to the Reds, dropped 4 to Cleveland, and then dropped 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. They'd already clinched a postseason berth, but they fell all the way from 1 all the way down to 7 in the American League. So what does this look like? What is this going to mean? Well, looking at the brackets as a whole, and that's one of the things that I've heard a lot of people kind of use, is this going to look and feel and sound a bit more like a March Madness style tournament rather than what we're used to seeing from an MLB postseason, where you know, every couple of nights they go out and play, and the top seeds generally advance on. You're going to be seeing postseason baseball on every single night. 3 games in 3 days, 5 games in 5 games, 7 games in 7 days, just to get to the World Series. You don't get an off day until you make it to the World Series. So looking at the bracket real quick, I actually think that for both the Cubs and the White Sox, their brackets line up fairly well. I especially like the Sox. The Sox, they go to Oakland and face the A's to start off. And then, assuming they'd win that, they would face the winner of the Twins-Astros series. Obviously, They only faced the Twins. They didn't see the Astros this year thanks to the pandemic scheduling. You only faced teams in your division or in your region. You didn't play teams from the West or teams from the East. So they handle the Twins well. I think they can handle the Astros well. And they'd be avoiding the Yankees until the American League Championship Series. So I like the way the bracket lines up for the White Sox. For the Cubs, they start off with the Marlins, and then they'd face the winner of Braves-Reds. I think Braves could give them some trouble, but the big point is they avoid the Dodgers until the National League Championship Series. So I kind of like the way both brackets line up for the teams, if you will. But let's talk about the wild card round specifically. Let's start on the north side. We'll start there first. National League Central champs. Obviously, you feel great going into a best-of-3 series because you know your first two pitchers in either order, and I don't believe David Ross has announced an order yet, but you know that you're going to have Kyle Hendricks and Yu Darvish in games 1 and 2, in whatever order you want to throw them at. You know, look at the Marlins roster, figure out which one you want to go with first. You could go with either guy first and have success, quite frankly. Personally, I like the idea of starting with Darvish, have him kind of overwhelm the Marlins a little bit, and then have the professor go out there and just ice in his veins. It's an elimination game. Hand the professor the ball and watch him go to work and just go to town. But where things could go wrong for the Cubs very quickly, I've talked about it the last few weeks, their big bats just haven't been there. Anthony Rizzo has kind of come around and has started hitting a little bit better. Chris Bryant has been hurt with you name it. Contreras struggled all throughout this short season. Same with Javi Baez. They finally broke out a little bit against the White Sox. And you saw Contreras with one of the largest bat flips in recorded history, where he just chucked it as high as the upper deck there at Guaranteed Rate Field. And that was just finally, I've been waiting to smack the cover off the ball kind of a celebration. And you saw that from Chris Bryant also, that, you know, he hit a grand slam and it was kind of that, there we go. That's what I've been waiting for. So the bats, they might be waking up for the Cubs, but if they don't, it's going to be hard. You know, we've seen the Cubs struggle to put up runs in the last week. You know, we saw them get blanked against the Pirates. We saw them put up 3 runs in 4 games against the Pirates. We saw them get blanked by the Twins, put up 1 run in that Twins series. And you're talking there, in a 7-game span, they put up 4 runs. If their big bats aren't hitting, they're going to struggle. They're really going to struggle. And then on the flip side, the bullpen. Do you really trust anybody coming out of that pen? Craig Kimbrell hasn't given up a run in all of September, but his stuff doesn't look the same. Do you trust him coming out in the 9th inning of a 1 or 2 run game that's a playoff game? Do you trust Kimbrell to shut that down? Jeremy Jeffries, he did a good job all season long, but you feel like, is he going to be able to do this in the postseason? He's raw. You haven't seen him in the postseason before. So the bullpen remains a question mark for the Cubs. They're by no means a perfect team. This isn't like 2016 where you kind of felt almost a certain sense of inevitability that as much as you can with the Cubs, that they're going. Then they take on the Marlins. The Marlins, of course, famous at the very beginning of the season, had the COVID outbreak. And it hit them hard. They managed to turn that around and somehow finish with a winning record. It was 2 games over 500, but had you said, yeah, you're going to lose 2/3 of your starting players less than a week into the season, how do you feel about that? I bet you any manager would have said, no, please. I'd like to keep 2/3 of my roster if I could. I don't want to have to start all over fresh. But you look at the Marlins as a whole, they're a good matchup for the Cubs, especially for a pitcher like Darvish, because they chase a lot. They swing and miss a lot of the time. And they just lost a couple of guys to injury, including one of their starting pitchers went down for the entire postseason. So they're going to be short. It's tough to see the Marlins come out. So I like the Cubs, as up and down as the Cubs have been. I like them to come out of their first round matchup. And then let's flip over to the other side. And I see Taryn chime in that Taryn thinks the White Sox have a shot against the A's. Historically the A's struggle in the postseason. I think they do too. I kind of like that matchup for the White Sox. What's tough for the Sox is they came down to earth so hard the last week of the season, losing all those games, dropping 2 out of 3 to Cincinnati, dropping 4 to Cleveland, dropping 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. And the last one was a game where the Cubs had nothing to play for. The Cubs had already wrapped up the 3 seed. They had nothing to gain or lose heading into that game, and they pounded the Sox. They got out to a 10-0 lead. The Sox managed to make it close, made it be 10-8 by the time it was all said and done. But they struggled at the end of the season, and that leads to problems. They're very young. Eloy Jimenez it's his first postseason. Luis Robert, who, wow, did he come back down to earth hard in the month of September. He had something like an 0-for-67 streak going there for a while before with just not hitting the ball. They're a young team, and that can work both ways for you. And I see Taryn, Taryn's really pushing the White Sox banner here. Maybe the Sox got their bad losses out of the way. That could be. With that though, they're a young team, and with a young team, the bad side of that is they haven't necessarily learned how to overcome that adversity. If they were a little bit more veteran of a group, you could say, oh, they can rally together and they know what it takes to win games. Well, this is a young team. They haven't experienced the postseason before. They haven't experienced this level of adversity before. It could very easily overwhelm them. It could also very easily, they could be too young to realize that they're supposed to be feeling pressure by being in this situation and just, oh yeah, we're good. Here we go. Let's go play baseball. Let's go. You like their bullpen. Man, do you like the Sox bullpen. They've got, between Colomé and of course I'm blanking on guys' names now. But I really like the Sox bullpen. Garrett Crochet, their first-round pick from this year. Boy, there's a nice flamethrower to pull out of the bullpen at the end of the game. He wakes up throwing 100 miles an hour, 101, 102 routinely. To have somebody like that to throw out of the bullpen and just have some fun with, and a guy like Colomé or some of their other big arms coming out of the bullpen, you like that. So if they can get out to a lead early, it's going to be interesting to see how Ricky Renteria manages these postseason games. Normally you'd say, oh, you get out to a lead and then let your bullpen go to town. Let the bullpen throw the last 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 innings. With no off days in between games, it's going to be interesting to see just how much a bullpen can be a strength for a team. But if the Sox can get their bats going, and they have hammered left-handed pitching, which is what Oakland's going to feature, is left-handed pitching predominantly in this series, the Sox can take this. It's there for them, and it's a best of 3. Anything can happen in a best of 3 because you only have to lose one game, and suddenly you are up against elimination. So it's going to be a wild postseason. It's going to be a really interesting week of baseball. The Sox kick things off tomorrow at 2:00, and then the Cubs have their first game Wednesday at 1:00. Going to be a lot of fun to keep track of. Going to be a wild, wild, wild October in the MLB. All right, going to take a quick break, and then we have all kinds of news here on IE Sports Radio, a bunch of new shows, and one of the new hosts is going to join me to break down the Bulls' newest head coach. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show, something you haven't heard before? You gotta check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sports talk at its finest. Always have great guests, playing some good hip-hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Hi everybody, it's Calvin here from USRN, here to give you an important message. Since 2017, we have done our absolute best to provide you with nothing but the highest quality of sports calls in the greatest of quantity possible. Thanks to you, our station has grown more than we ever thought. That's why, with your help, we would like to grow even further. Just think, twice the amount of your favorite calls, 24 hours of coverage, talk shows, play-by-play, game-by-game analysis, and so much more. That's right, USRN2 is officially in development, but we can't do it alone. We have set up a GoFundMe page that you can access from our homepage on the left of your screen. We also are planning special giveaways and prizes to our highest donors. Our goal here at USRN is to bring you the best calls possible at no cost to you. In order to continue to do that, we need your help now. Please check out our GoFundMe page, and if you would like to know how you can help, you can email usrnradio@gmail.com. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
To the Soccer Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week, I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League, to the World Cup, to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. It's been a busy week for IE Sports. We've got several new shows that have started or are in the process of starting. You may have heard the ad there for the Soccer Scoreboard Show. That is back. It's actually got a new host, but it is back. They had their first show last night. He's going to be regularly on Sundays, so give him a listen, give him a check out. Doing a great job of talking about the pitch and football and all those wonderful things. We've also got the return of our wrestling show is back. The Ring Rambling Radio is back. Martine and Felicia are back after a hiatus for that. We also now have a New York sports show. I don't have a date yet for them for when they're starting, but the show that never sleeps is going to focus on New York sports. And then we've also got a show that is going to be focusing on Oklahoma and North Texas. And one of the hosts for that show, Brennan, is jumping on with us now to talk about the Chicago Bulls and their new head coach, Billy Donovan. Brennan, thank you so much for taking some time out of your Monday to talk some hoops with us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And I know from the little bit that I've watched and followed you on Twitter a little bit, you're also a Cowboys fan. So how are you feeling after yesterday?
Don't want to talk about it. That's how I'm feeling about it. I want to talk about it.
All right. Well, then we'll move on. We'll move on from that. We'll move on from that then and into the reason we called and the reason we got you coming on here tonight. The Bulls last week announced that they have hired Billy Donovan, formerly of the Oklahoma City Thunder, to be their next head coach. Donovan spent the last 5 years with the Thunder, a 243 and 157 record, a little over 60% of his games won, made the playoffs all 5 years, made it to the Western Conference Final in his first year, and then was a first-round exit after that. Was named the co-NBA Coach of the Year from the NBA Coaches Association. That's just his NBA credentials. He signed a 4-year deal to be the next Bulls head coach. Brennan, how did he become available? How were Billy Donovan and Oklahoma City management not able to come up with a way to extend him?
Well, from what I understand, this was mutually agreed upon. I think, his contract was up, and I think maybe they had some talks about extending him. But from what I understand, I think both sides kind of saw a benefit in parting ways. Billy Donovan, it's been 5 years, and it's been 5 successful years compared to other teams who can't make the playoffs every year. But you have to look at it's been a whirlwind for Billy Donovan these 5 years. The first year there, we still got Russell Westbrook, we still got KD. We go to the Western Conference Finals. We're up 3-1, 1 game away from the championship series, and we choke it, and the Warriors come back and go on. That summer, KD's gone, and the team that Billy Donovan thought he was coming to, it's drastically changed. And every year since then, this team has just gone through so much. Every summer, we're trying to repackage and retool and get this team going. And I'm not sure if that's really what Billy Donovan signed up for, when he came to be the coach of the Thunder and KD and Russell Westbrook. And now we're at this point where the Thunder are pretty clearly about to just officially hit the full rebuild button. I don't think CP3's coming back. We could be moving on for some big contracts like Steven Adams and Dennis Schroeder. And, it's like in sports, like a quarterback who just has the bad luck of getting a new head coach every year. It's kind of the reverse. Every year I feel like Billy Donovan has a new team, a new set of challenges. I think he was looking forward to going somewhere a little more stable roster-wise, where he could really mold some talent, really grow a team, whereas Thunder are always wheeling and dealing and moving pieces around. I don't know that for sure, but just him being a college coach, and that's where he really made his mark, I think he was looking for an opportunity to really start something from the ground up.
Well, I mean, he certainly has a reclamation project in Chicago. I mean, coming off of the last couple years, the Jim Boylan era, where, my goodness, every night was a circus, every night, and the clown was the ringleader. It's just interesting to hear that Donovan maybe didn't want to start a rebuilding project in Oklahoma City, because he's basically got one here in Chicago. And the Bulls have a couple of pieces, Lauri Markkanen being one, certainly. But the Bulls are by no means going to be instant contenders.
Oh, no, I get that. I know the way I guess I worded that wrong. Not that he didn't want to rebuild but we don't know what the Thunder are going to be. We don't know who we're trading, who we're keeping. Every summer it's something different. And I don't know for sure, but from his perspective, I can imagine just being tired of having the entire script get flipped every summer. And like I said, the Thunder that he signed up to be the coach of is not the Thunder he ended up having for 4 of those 5 years. The biggest star on the team, one of the best players in the league, left. And it went from being a championship contender all the time to constantly fighting to get bumped in the first round. I don't think he has a problem with the rebuild. I think he is actually looking forward to that opportunity. I think it was just time for a fresh start. And you have a team in Chicago that has some pieces like, Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, pieces who are going to be there, pieces who you can say, okay, I'm building on these guys. Let's just start something fresh here. I think maybe the time in OKC had just run its course.
Yeah, and then, so what kind of a coach should Bulls fans in Chicago come to expect from Billy Donovan? I mean, we're coming off of Jim Boylan, who was, not to put too fine a point on it, or not to over-exaggerate too much, but a guy who is just so clearly outmatched, outclassed, and overwhelmed by the job. What can Bulls fans come to expect from Billy Donovan?
Well, as a Thunder fan, I can't ever really remember a time where I was upset about Billy Donovan being our coach or thought he wasn't qualified or thought he was holding us back. Granted, he did kind of start with a very good team and we were able to maintain a playoff status. But from what I know, from how I perceive things, he's a player that's liked, or he's a coach who's liked by his players. The fan base respects him. He has the credentials, like you mentioned. So coming into Chicago, if I was a Bulls fan, I'd be excited. I would definitely see it as an upgrade. I'm not big on basketball X's and O's. I just kind of watch it, and come up with my own perspective. But a big deal was made this year with how he schemed our team, like finally moving on from Russell Westbrook. He came up with this game plan to run a three-point guard system. We had Chris Paul, we had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we had Dennis Schroeder. And I know he got a lot of praise this year for taking a team that no one thought had a snowball's chance in making the playoffs. I think we were given like a 0.2% chance at the start of the season. And at the end of the season, Chris Paul has been an all-star. We have 3 or 4 players averaging 20 points a game, I believe. I could be wrong, but it's some wild stat like that. He found a way to get the best out of his players and use their tools to put them in the best chance to succeed.
Are the players going to like him?
I think so. That's what I said. From what I can't ever remember hearing about him not getting along with players. No drama like that. The Thunder isn't really that type of organization anyways. From top down, we're pretty tight with how we run things. But from what I can tell, he still has like a great relationship with some of the kids he coached at Florida. And even when there was some beef going on in OKC, like between Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, and maybe how the team did or didn't achieve what they should have, I don't ever remember a time where, fingers are being pointed at Billy Donovan.
Well, that's very good to hear. I'm looking at the clock, Brennan, and I'm realizing that unfortunately we gotta cut this short. We're coming up against the end of the show, but thank you so much for hopping on. Let's definitely do this again.
All right, I appreciate it.
All right, have a good night.
Yes, sir. You too.
All right, and thank you to Brennan for hopping on there to help out with a look at Billy Donovan and the new Chicago Bulls head coach. All right, this has been Chi-Town Weekly. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and spending some time with us. Another programming note from Taryn, and Taryn, thank you for reminding me. Taryn's show Set Point about volleyball is going to be celebrating its 1-year anniversary on Wednesday. Definitely check it out. Give it a listen. He does an awesome job with that. And kudos to you on making it to your 1-year anniversary on that. All right, it's going to be a busy week ahead. The Bears play again. We've got baseball playoffs for both sides of town. Let's see if the Bears can get to 4-0 for the first time since 2006. We're going to wrap it all up next week. In the meantime, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy your sports. Man, this is getting to be the fun time of year, isn't it? I'm loving it. Until next time, everybody have a good night.